Hello, I'm Luke, and welcome to another episode of the Vision Victory podcast, where we discuss practical ways to turn your dreams into reality. Over the past several weeks, we've been discussing the topic of freedom and finding freedom in different areas of our lives. And I was planning to wrap that up this week with the final topic on finding freedom, but I don't quite have it where I want it yet. So I want to finish developing it and give it to you when it's ready. So instead, today, I'm just going to give you a few brief thoughts regarding a topic that I've been pondering, and it's specifically from a book that I'm reading that's really got me thinking about this topic. The topic is endurance. The book I'm reading is a fantastic book. I recommend it. It's called Endure, and it covers much of the science behind what contributes to the ultra high level of endurance of elite athletes in arenas that really require high levels of endurance. So think like long distance runners, marathon runners, or cyclists, things where elite athletes will do something that puts them in excruciating agony over hours and hours at a time, and what contributes to them being able to push through. And this has got me thinking about endurance in our lives and how necessary it is to endure, to see something through, to have resilience and persistence in so many areas of our lives. And I think oftentimes we stop short of the other side of difficulty. In other words, let's say you're in a relationship. If you quit anytime that things get difficult, you will never have a lasting relationship. If you're married, you understand, or if you've been in a long-term relationship, you understand that it requires endurance and it requires wading through difficult things so that you get to the other side, so that you get the good stuff too. Getting and staying fit and healthy requires endurance, not just the kind of endurance we're talking about. To be clear, I'm not a long distance runner or anything like that. But it does require the consistency to do things, to exercise, maybe when you don't feel like it, maybe make some changes to your diet on a consistent basis. And one of the things that I find fascinating about endurance is that it is as much mental as anything. Now, to be clear, we have physical limits, but the science seems to point to much of our endurance level is really related to just our mental toughness, which can sound a little cliche, but in other words, it can have the same impact on our brain of feeling exhausting to, sit in front of a computer clicking through something that's boring or whatever it is, and you feel fatigued. Sometimes that can make us more exhausted than, doing strenuous physical activity. And there's a lot of science behind this that also, if, let's say you had to do some menial task for 30 minutes before doing a physical activity, you could potentially perform much, your performance would be significantly diminished because you were mentally fatigued from a task that took no physical effort at all. And the point here is that endurance requires a few things from us. And these are the thoughts that I have about endurance, outside of the fact that it's necessary for all these different areas of our lives. In order to endure, I believe we need to count the cost. if you do not have reasonable expectations, you likely will quit. If you think, let's say that you haven't worked out in years, and if your expectation is that you're going to start lifting really heavy weights in the gym 6 times a week, like you will quit, right? Because that's unrealistic. You have not accurately counted the cost of what it looks like to actually commit long term to getting fit and healthy. The second thing is you need to let go of anything holding you back. I've talked a lot about this. I'm not going to unpack it in detail today, but if there's something in your past that's holding you back, or if there's habits that are holding you back, you need to do what it takes to let go of whatever that is. And then resolve that failure is not an option. And to be clear, that's not to say that you won't make mistakes. It's not to say that you won't even fail along the way. But the truth is that you only really fail if you quit. I've talked about this many times as well. Failure is a requirement for success in any area. Life is trial and error. If you have lived any amount of time and have been paying attention, you know that there are some things that we only learn by our mistakes. So we got to count the costs, let go of things that are holding you back, resolve that failure is not an option, and then create accountability. When I had the idea to start this podcast, I knew that it would take some work to get it going, and I didn't want to give myself an opportunity to quit or to not do it because I felt compelled, like I really wanted to. I felt like I was supposed to, but I know that I know myself, and I know that I could, maybe get busy. My work keeps me busy. Kids keep me, family keeps me busy, whatever it is. And so what I did is I started talking to people in my circle, in my, kind of close sphere, telling them that I was going to start this podcast and this is what it was going to be. And that created accountability for me. So next time I saw that person, they would ask me, hey, how's it going? How's the podcast going? And that created kind of self-imposed accountability. So some of the things, again, my thoughts on endurance and how we do it in our day-to-day lives. You need to count the costs when you start something. You need to let go of anything that's holding you back. Resolve that failure is not an option. Create accountability. So, endurance. I'd ask this. Is there something in your life that is challenging you? Maybe you're tempted to quit. Do you need to remind yourself why you started in the first place? Or do you need to remind yourself why it matters? I believe that one of the most impactful things in our lives is staying power. It's the ability to see things through, especially the important things. Relationships, if you're building a business or a career, whatever it is, things that are worthwhile in life require staying power, require longevity, require endurance. So I'll leave you with a couple quotes. A German doctor named Dieter said this: "It's your reaction to adversity, not adversity itself, that determines how your life story develops." I like that. I'll say that one more time. It's your reaction to adversity, not the adversity itself, that determines how your life's story develops. And then finally, you've heard me say this one before, but this is the Apostle Paul. "Forgetting what is behind, straining towards what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward." And I love that picture of forgetting what's behind, and endurance is much about not looking back, but looking forward and staying the course that you know you're supposed to be on in any given area. I hope this was helpful for somebody. If it was, please share it. I'll see you next week.